Welcome back, everyone, to another interview that I'm doing with my colleague and friend, Paul Boehnke. And last time, if you remember, we talked about what life coaching is and why people would consider working with a life coach. And Paul, you also talked about self-doubt and how you help your clients reprogram that voice in their head. So I'm curious, what are the other things that you help your clients with?
Great question. So, often people will come to me sort of with a feeling of a lack of purpose. They know all the things that they're doing in life, but they're having trouble sort of tying them all together in a meaningful way. They believe their life is important and significant, but they're somehow, kind of unable to see how that importance and significantly really shows up. It's almost as if they sort of have tickets for a play, but they're stuck in the lobby and they can't really see what's going on in the theater. They feel a bit sort of on the outside of their life, and they don't like that feeling, because, having a sense of purpose in life is really what helps us to connect to meaning. It's what gives us energy as opposed to sort of draining us of energy. And having purpose makes it really easy to make decisions because it brings a great deal of clarity to us. And it's also what helps us feel grounded, grounded in life, grounded at work, in our bodies, in all our various roles and relationships that we play. And without that sort of feeling of groundedness, we end up feeling kind of unmoored or adrift. Without that sense of purpose, we kind of find ourselves just wandering aimlessly, which also usually means that we don't get much accomplished and we often feel pretty stuck. So, when people are going to look for their life's purpose, they often end up sort of focusing on the future and what they want to accomplish, what they want to see come into their life. And they often do all sorts of, exercises and assessments that really sort of help them sort through all these options. And these are great exercises. And I use some of them with my clients as well. But the problem with this approach, I find, is it's focused almost solely on the future. And the future is so big and so broad. It's kind of, filled with virtually unlimited possibility that can become overwhelming just in itself. I mean, how can we possibly narrow our focus in that kind of situation? It's a bit like, I don't know, like going to an ice cream shop that's the size of the universe with an infinite number of flavors to choose from. How is it possible to choose? We can't even know what all the options are. And it seems that there's sort of no way to know in which direction to move. And then people also think about purpose as something that they have to go find. And if they aren't able to find that big thing to call their life's purpose, they're afraid that they're going to sort of fail at life. And this, I believe, is actually a misconception of purpose. Your life purpose is really not something to find. It's more akin to something that you recognize. But actually, sometimes even this feels sort of a bit too dependent on our searching. It feels like there's such a huge possibility of failure. If I'm looking and I don't find it, then what, What's my life going to mean if I can't recognize my purpose? And just the stress from that and the fear of failing, that's almost always going to ensure that you're going to miss the subtle signs that, I find are so important when we're talking about life purpose. Life purpose is not so much about what you do as it is about who you are. And frankly, my belief is that we're all always living our purpose. We can't help it. And whatever path we're on is the path of our purpose. But when we can't see the pattern or the reason or the direction, then it often feels like a chaotic path. And we feel sort of lost and unmoored. And that's often what I work with my clients on, how to make sense of their life's purpose.
Well, that's powerful, Paul. I thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
when it comes to something like life purpose, it's kind of a big topic. There's a lot that can go into that. So I guess what specifically is your approach in helping people discover that life purpose?
Yeah, great question, Michael. It is often helpful to do some exercises which help sort of clarify our values and things that give us passion. But I find that usually the quickest and most impactful way to find what our future purpose is to look at the themes and the patterns of the life that we've lived so far. Everything that's happened to us, everything we've learned, everything we've focused on, been excited by, been bored by, challenged by, failed at, succeeded at, all of these things, when we consider them together, they will almost always sort of reveal themes that have wound their way through our life. In my own life, before becoming a coach, I was a classical musician. And after many years of rewarding work as a musician, I could see that that part of my life was sort of coming to an end, but I wasn't sure what was to come next. But when I looked backward in my own life, I began seeing themes of learning, of spiritual connection, of searching for acceptance and meaning. I discovered that sort of one of the main questions for my life is why? Why are we doing this? Why is this important? Why? That's kind of what mattered to me. And those are all the same themes that inform my life now as a coach. I'm just doing very different work, but it was that looking backward that sort of helped me focus on what it is that gives me energy. What does my life seem to be about? What are those questions that seem to inform my life, even at an unconscious level? I was working with one client of mine who had told me about a challenging childhood that they had and all the things that they'd done since that time, realized that the theme of his life so far had been that of healing. And then I asked him, well, how might that theme of healing connect to your future? And he immediately had sort of an intuitive knowing of the direction that he needed to head. His end goal wasn't clear. It wasn't like, oh, my life's purpose is to X, Y, Z. But he had a very clear direction about how that healing would be then showing up for his future life. And so what happened is the possibilities went from basically an infinite number of things he could do in the future to whatever was near that path that he had identified. I find one of the most effective tools for finding our life's purpose is really to look at our past and discover the patterns and the themes that show up there. These will illuminate your next step forward, sometimes many steps forward, but even if it's only the very next step that becomes obvious, that's all you need. You can only take one step at a time. And really, what's kind of important is simply an openness to what arises for you. Not so much in your head, where most of us are when we're looking for our purpose or thinking about what is it I should be doing. But if we're open in our heart and sort of let things arise there through our intuition, that's where we will get really great clues. And this is why I will often use some sort of a guided meditation to help clients sort of tune into their own intuition. And this usually cuts through all that underbrush that kind of clutters up our search in our head. And it simply shines a spotlight sort of on the direction in which they need to head. So that's pretty much how I approach that with my clients.
That's powerful, Paul. Thank you for sharing. And there's a lot of lessons in just, this interview that we're doing. And, when we want to go forward, having a vision, a path, as you say, often we can take a look back and see where the next step is going to be. So really cool that you hear that you do that kind of work with your clients. I'm curious too, for our listeners, if people are interested in getting some help in discerning that life purpose you're talking about, what options do they have?
Well, one such option that I will mention is I do offer a single 90-minute coaching session that's really laser focused on discerning purpose. It's usually $220 for this 90 minutes, but frankly, for your audience here, Michael, I'm offering a little discount through the end of November. There's a URL that we will include here. It's paulboehnke.com/purpose. But if they go there, there's a coupon code that they can use, and the coupon code is Coach Krug, one word. and that's going to save them some money. It brings it down to $199. Maybe we can put that URL here with the interview as well. But that's sort of one option that people can do. Take a look at that on my webpage and sign up for that if that feels like that's of use to you.
Absolutely, yeah. So would you say, one single coaching session might be sufficient for someone to find their purpose?
It sure can be. Sometimes it's a longer process, but when clients are really ready and open for whatever comes up, we can gain an amazing amount of clarity in just 90 minutes. In any case, it's always enough to get much clearer picture of what direction to head, even if we don't see the end goal and we have, this clear image of exactly where I need to go. We've looked at the past and seen the direction we seem to be heading. And that's usually a clue to help us know where to move forward. And that 90 minutes is usually enough to sort of reveal that. And of course, for those who wish to continue, say this was a great 90 minutes, but they're wanting to do more work, I'm of course happy to support them as they begin to live into that purpose as well.
Awesome. Well, Paul, thank you so much for offering the gift to our listeners, and too, just for all that you do. I know you've helped many people when it comes to overcoming that self-doubt, to finding their purpose. And I know that you'll continue to do awesome work for my followers as well as others in the future, both near and long. So much appreciated, Paul. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Michael. Thanks for the invitation.